19 on the agenda. Can I just say, before we do that, that I asked us to be put on the agenda, not because I was seeking any direct investigation or comment about donations to the Air Festival, but it was as a general item, looking at the overall governance of how the scheme was being run, and what advice or guidance was to be given to councillors, and how public money was being spent. It's not designed to be a criticism of any particular councillor or about their donations, although that obviously comes into the report. So, you take this?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everybody. The report does three things really. It updates on how the local improvement fund is set up and how it operates. It recommends that there's a review of the guidance, and it also provides a little bit of information about how the money has been spent on the Air Festival in recent years. So just to start off, I'll explain a little bit about what the local improvement fund is. It's a pot of money that is available, has been available each year for a number of years, that enables ward councillors to identify small amounts spent in their ward to support the local community. It's actually administrated within my team, so councillors identify the projects and come to my team who does the paperwork and manages the budget. Two important things to note: there are different arrangements depending on the arrangements in the ward. So where the ward has one single party members, there's a £4,500 fund available, and any two members can sign the form, and on that basis the project can be approved. Where the parties are, the ward members have split parties. In effect, there's £1,500 available per ward member, and the applications come in on that basis and are approved on that basis. So that's how it works. The expenditure is usually follows one of two models. Either the funding is spent through the council, so if a member identifies that there's a park bench needed or a bin needed or something that the local authority is responsible for, a project officer within the council will be nominated, and they will manage that project and deliver that project. On some occasions, on many occasions, the expenditure is external and the funding goes out to a local charity, a local community group, and in that case, we identify that organisation and the money goes to that organisation. And I mean, you'll be aware of the sort of things that is spent on, anything from hanging baskets for green groups to providing some equipment for a school, funding a charity, any needs that they have. Quite a lot is spent on summer events, Christmas events, etc. So very local activities that the community have. As the report notes, and as we're aware, in recent times there has been some funding spent on the Air Festival on the basis that that is a benefit to the whole community. One thing that has emerged through this whole process is that the guidance is it's quite clear in terms of how the process works and in terms of broadly what the funding is available for, and it sets out clearly that it doesn't support an individual, it has to be community benefit. But there is scope, there's always scope for just having some clarity around that guidance to ease with the decision-making process. As I said at the beginning, it is staff in my team that take the requests and make a judgment in terms of the spirit of the fund and whether that's appropriate. Sometimes we have to seek guidance. In most cases, it's quite clear that what the member is asking for is absolutely in the spirit of the funding. So that's explain what's in the report, explaining the purpose of the recommendation, and I think it's just a question of comments and questions, I'm sure.
What about at this stage?
Well, I think, Chairman, I need to say to you and the committee that I welcome this paper coming forward, because given the media speculation, I think it's only right and proper that all of the government should be picking this up and taking a look at it. In terms of the work that has begun to bring a report back to your next meeting, again, I think that is something that is in the public interest and something that I would welcome. And I anticipate that I will some input, along with plenty of other people, into the substance of that report, not least around the background of how the LIF has evolved over time, what its purposes are, and what the true spirit of it actually is. And that's identified in this Bickler's report, which I think is very helpful and very clear. Thank you.
Before I bring members in, the only comment I've got is at the end of the year we are sent a schedule of every councillor's expenditure. Every councillor gets a copy of it. I would just wanted to know what officer does that go to review the overall at the end of the year. I could never find out whose desk that landed upon. But which members want to come in? That's right.
Chairman, again, I think it's right that the Audit Governance Committee have actually had this come forward, and I would wholeheartedly support the recommendation for the changes to the guidance to the next committee meeting. Given really that at point 6, in there about, again, and I guess really there were a number of wards that contributed towards the total amount for 13-14, and obviously it mentions that it arguably did not support the local ward.
Yeah, I think the first of all, the most important thing to recommend is that we realise that with this event, over 65 to 70% of people who actually come to the Air Festival are local people. And I think the initial discussions with that was that the reason why the ward council wanted to support that was actually, again, a point of additionality, that what we were trying to do at that moment of time, and I said in the report, was to provide an ISET programme, which was a direct benefit to them immediately to those particularly those people who live on the ward, but obviously from residents themselves. So I think from the perspective that we were receiving and talking to the support that was being given, it was on that basis that this scheme was actually agreed for funding. So I think it's very important that we do realise that there was a arguably local benefit there across those wards. And that was the basis of that decision. And within the terms, it was actually within the sort of the council's own sort of corporate priorities. Obviously, there's an economic benefit to it as well as some residential benefits as well. So the point is just to give the context in which I think the money was being allocated was on those principal basis. And from our perspective, I think we felt that was probably a proper thing to do, to continue to do.
The other issue that I'm also concerned about is that the councillors also get requests from other councillors to use some of their fund to support something in the first councillor's ward. Now, that's moving funds from one ward to another. Is that within the spirit of what the LIF is? And maybe that could be covered in the report. Presumably that we will need a report to put into practice next year.
Would you have to wait and see, Chair?
It's those sort of issues. We also have issues of councillors using some of their LIF ward to finance projects in a neighbouring ward when maybe their colleague next door has run out of money, and therefore money is shifting from one to another, not necessarily, and being spent not on by that particular councillor his own money or her money. These other issues. It's not just yet the spirit of it, it's the actual practicality that guidance should cover.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then we'll take a look at that. The guidance at the moment does say that the benefit doesn't have to be exclusively in that ward member's ward, but predominantly, and it's these sorts of issues that it would be really helpful from an officer level to have some clear guidance on.
Councillor Pyler and Councillor Green.
I understand that, but the problem with the ward situation is that one side of the road can be in one ward and another side can be in another ward, and the LIF money going to the community centre at the end of that road, which actually spans them both. I think it would be, when this is being, the report is being prepared, I don't want it to be too prescriptive, because whereas the ward barons at the moment say the money should be spent in the ward, if it's for the benefit of the people in the ward, but it actually sits just outside. I mean, we don't have a community centre, for example, in every ward. We don't. Or a sport. So I think, I think common sense has got to be applied, and too much prescription will actually destroy the spirit of this LIF money.
That's not quite what I was reading. And I'm really taking an area for the sake of it. If the members in Southbourne haven't used up all their money at the end of the year, and somebody in Moordown wants to do something, and they ask them to support it, then I don't think that's within the spirit. Like neighbouring wards is a different thing, and that's what has happened, happened in the past.
Excuse me,
Sorry,
Chairman.
yeah.
I was similar to Councillor Filer. I was going to ask that we look at how prescriptive this should be, and I'll just give a particularly practical example. Last year, there was a request actually from one of the South councillors for others to fund towards the community cinema, and for example, I agreed to put some of my allocation in from Central Ward, only on condition that there would be an opportunity for residents in sheltered housing, in council-provided sheltered housing in Central Ward to have a free visit to the cinema. So I think we need to be quite careful in making sure that although I don't like the idea that it has to be predominantly in your ward, but I think the amount that's put in has to be commensurate with the benefit for members or for residents within your ward. I think the second point, which maybe has been skirted around a little bit, is the coverage in the press of the Air Festival. I think was less around the shuffling of one budget within the council to another budget within the council. It was around the opportunity for members specifically to be invited to Patrons Club events. And I think we do need to be very careful in putting this together to ensure that there is no benefit to any particular member themselves in going forward with a particular allocation of their LIF money.
Shall we wait for the further report?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.